Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with True Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
What's up, True Heel Heat? True Heel Heat. What's up? True Heel Heat. All hands is on me. What's going on, everybody? This is your former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Once a champion, always a champion. Swerve Strickland. Whose house? Swerve's house. You're watching True Heel Heat podcast.
Hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for our AEW Full Gear 2024 preview. Breaking down this Saturday show live from Newark, New Jersey, the Prudential Center. And we got a lot to discuss. So you know what time it is. It's here where we're talking about an AEW pay-per-view that I go through the wrestling media Rolodex, and I always stop on one of the busiest men out there. Real, recognized, real, like we said before we went live. One of the biggest and best, in my opinion, in the wrestling media game with all the content he's doing at Late Night Grin, as well as WrestlePurists. The one and only Joe Hulbert is here.
It's been too long since I hear one of those, intros, brother. It's been too long since I heard one of those. It's always great to be here. Last time, I was moving to this setup, which looks exactly the same. So it's like, it's not even like I can show off, like, here is my new glamour. It's actually less stuff behind me now, but it's different, I promise. And so I missed last time. And that was eventful, right? Wrestle Dream. There was some big business. I would have got a lot of things wrong. But we're here, full gear. And I'll be honest, I'll get ahead of ourselves here, but I don't know how I feel. So this is going to be interesting. I'm not doing the preview show for the Grin this time. This is an exclusive for you, brother. I'm here to preview the show for you, and I have no idea what I think. So let's get into it.
We got a lot to discuss because I told him before we went live here, I was like, we gotta get like a forecast. We gotta talk about the state of AEW, which is probably one of the reasons why he doesn't know how he feels going into this Saturday show, and neither do I, because I feel like a lot of times these AEW pay-per-views are mirages, which it shouldn't feel like. But We're going to talk all about that before we get into the card. Before we do anything, we want to say thank you. If you're joining us live, welcome to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. If you are new to the channel, of course, we appreciate y'all. If you're joining us live, or even if you're watching us on demand, show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. Drop the thumbs up on this video. You can also share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. We got a full lineup of content for you for AEW Full Gear. We got our review on Sunday. We'll have final predictions on the flagship podcast tomorrow as well. So stay tuned for all of that. And of course, if you're watching us live, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you. If you're watching on any of these platforms, we'll try to highlight as many of your comments as possible. But of course, if you're feeling generous, you want to give back to what we do here, you can send a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to the contributors that you see on screen with us here. And we always appreciate the support. We got I Make Beats, who is a member of the channel. You can hit the join button for $1 a month. Get your in-chat perks and exclusive content by being a member. He says, another pay-per-view weekend. Let's get it. He says, should be some bangers on this one. We also got Nikki Boyd, Negro Buck, another one of our members, who says, sup, good brothers, gonna watch this thing back later. Right now, I'm locked in on this new Kendrick Lamar album. I gotta check that out. Thanks for the heads up.
I got a message like 25 minutes ago, and I was like, I have a wrestling pay-per-view to preview, but thank you for this information. You know, it's part of the game, brother. We miss these things sometimes, you know.
You know, this is the priority, but y'all giving me content for the sports and entertainment channel, so I always appreciate that. I can go listen to that for y'all over there. We got Caden in the chat joining us. He says, "Oh my God, it's Joey Bing Bong."
It is, and you can see Caden on tonight's episode of the Late Night Grin. Look at that synergy there. See that, brother? I will not be there, but Caden Lee will be. He's been, I don't know if you've heard about what he's been up to over there. But he's become a controversial figure on the Late Night Grin. Very aggressive. Very aggressive. Attacks me often, frankly. But, you know, as part of being young in the business, right, you have to... It's like, you know those New Japan tags where, like, the veteran will get in there and eat some forearms from the young kid before he... I let him get his shine.
Like, drops him on his head.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's part of the business. But shout out to Caden. He's the man.
Oh, I love to hear it. Love to hear it. I love you're training him well over there in the No Gay Dojo Late Night Grin. But yes, like I said at the top of the show, we kind of got to talk about AEW overall. So feel free to sound off in the live chat on your thoughts on AEW, the state of AEW going into Full Gear, and your predictions on the card as always. And I've got to ask my good friend Joe here, what do you feel about the state of AEW right now, which really feels like it's in a down period? And it really, I've compared it a lot on this channel, on the AE Ramble yesterday, talking about Dynamite, and as well as the other podcasts that we've done on here, that it really feels right now more than ever that Tony Khan has decided that AEW is in post WrestleMania mode. Ever since All In, it really feels like they've taken their foot off the pedal, and then especially after they got the new TV deal, it feels like the care, the concentration on basically sensible storytelling has kind of gone the window a lot of times. They're focusing on the wrong people. It doesn't seem like the ratings are going to get any better. Doesn't seem like the attendance, at least we've seen some glimmer of hope with the smaller buildings that they're running in the winter going into 2024. But that doesn't look like it's going to get any better, because it's like it goes back to the storytelling. Like the storytelling and the booking has just been way off right now, in my opinion. But I want to know what's yours.
Yeah, this has been a tough pay-per-view cycle for me personally. I have to be honest. I was wavering some, after Wembley. Like the road to Wrestle Dream, I was kind of and then they had that angle at Wrestle Dream, right? The Moxley show closing angle, which whatever you thought of it, I know it was somewhat polarizing. It was, significant, right? It felt like a happening. And I regretted it immediately, but I just said to myself, I'm actually going to buy in. I'm going to believe that this is going to be the real big angle that they commit to. And unfortunately, they've lost me with it. And not because it's bad. It isn't bad. It's that it doesn't feel nearly as big and grand as they intended for it to be initially, which we'll get into. But I just struggle with that part of this. I think AEW is a promotion that has many strengths. But at some point, it's like, fool me once, shame, that deal. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, the end of Wrestle Dream was like, AEW is doomed. And it's now basically just like Orange Cassidy and a handful of babyfaces. The only people that even care. It's just, I find it to be frustrating, and as we go through this card, I mean, I'll state this now because I think it's important. I have no doubt this show's going to be really good. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, AEW pay-per-view, the card, there's some really good matches on here. I just wish I cared about the conflicts more. That's my biggest thing. But yeah, it's been a tough cycle, I think. I have some hope. Smaller buildings coming up, as you mentioned. Continental Classic coming up, which is big, I think, for a lot of us. But I kind of worry about those two things being like the things I'm anticipating. They feel like kind of band-aids.
And it lets you down. It lets
you.
That's the worry that I have right now as well, because it's like, damn, they really need the Continental Classic right now. But what if they botched that? Like that would, because they botched 2 hostile takeovers. And I feel like if you just would have took the stuff that worked with the Elite and just put it into this one with the Death Riders, this would be going a lot better. Like I said in our AE Ramble yesterday, I was like, the thing that the Elite got right, and especially in that first month of the angle, with the big moments that you could, months later with Baby Brain and I don't know what else, and 50 million jobs I got. I remember the Elite beating down Tony Khan in the neck brace. I remember the beatdown on Kenny Omega in Winnipeg. I
took over the show. Yeah,
them taking over the show. They were involved in the Swerve and Christian rivalry. They were all over the show. It was a show-long narrative, week after week after week, building up to Double or Nothing. And then I'm not even going to get into how that all fell apart after that. But get that part and put it into this. They had it right like the week after and the week after that. But I feel like the nonsensical storytelling of the week after that, where the babyfaces are just going to stand in the parking lot the whole entire show, I think they because of people not liking that, they was just like, all right, forget it. We'll just do it. We'll just do it our way.
Yeah, it's strange. And it also just feels like there needs to be more main characters involved, right? Which is, I mean, I get it. Like, they want to do separate feuds, but I think it's hard to buy it as a real threat to the promotion if, like, multiple top stars haven't even commented on it, to me anyway. But yeah, the thing about the Continental Classic is, like, I think it will be very good because of the talent. I'm a little bit concerned that, again, they're going to, like, roll out the lineup, the last minute, which I think is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Like, I think part of the fun of a tournament is having time to get excited about the bracket and, figure out who you think. It's just going to turn up on, like, Tuesday morning, I think. But, the other thing is, even forgetting the Continental Classic, it's like, what happens after that, right? Then we go back to, it's just, I'm worried. If you can't tell, folks, I'm concerned. I don't know necessarily how to feel, because we're going to talk about this show in a minute, and every match we're going to say something to the effect of, this is going to be a good match, because they are going to be good matches. But I don't, I want to feel a little bit more than that, right? I want to, as a fan of some of these wrestlers, I want to be like, I can't wait to see this babyface kick ass or do this, that. And I don't feel that right now, which is a shame. But I don't know. We'll get into it match by match, I guess.
Yes, for sure. Let us know what you guys think. We got Red Meat Wrestling, who says too disconnected from the whole show. We also got new face in the chat, Rice Man. Hello to you as well. Happy Friday. And we got a super chat donation. Thank you so much. The King Ellie Show. Appreciate you as always. Good to see you today. He says, "What's up, guys? All I'm going to say is Dodger Blue." With the fire emoji. He's up. I'm representing for your Dodgers. I got a Los Angeles shirt for you.
Shoot sports.
Joe don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, is that a TNA faction or something? I realize this is Shoot Sports talk. I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you now. Okay.
He's like, oh, you're talking about the real? Oh, okay. I'm not interested. Thank you, King Ellie Show. Appreciate the super chat donation. We got here, yeah, big hitbox who says Private Party and Death Riders not acknowledging each other after the title win is insane. That's something simple that they probably should have done, but they probably didn't even like think about it because like Private Party's whole rise started with Moxley and them picking on him basically and breaking his hand with the hammer. That motivated him to go to that for them to finally go after the tag team titles and then win them.
That could be so. Even if it was something as little as Moxley putting that in one of his promos, like that would help, you know, and.
Because it proves his point that they are here to motivate them.
Yeah, and what a great heel thing to be smug, like he takes credit for it. That's great, you know, but Private Party already, it's been 3 weeks, so like it's not a big deal. But them already just being like guys who hang around with their belts backstage is alarming to me. As someone who wants them to be more than just a title win, I want them to actually be a top team, you know. Title win was great. The Bucks had a killer match with them. But you don't want it to just be like, remember when, right? You want them to have a great reign and a great... So they've got to make sure that they don't just kind of do this thing that I think is very common in wrestling booking now, where the booker puts the belt on a babyface and just kind of goes, well, that's that mission complete. What's next? And it's like,
yeah,
the work's just getting started, man. They're still, you know, new to that level. So they need some help in that regard. But yeah, I agree completely on that.
They do it way too often in this company because we have a bunch of champions that's like that. Mariah May, it just felt like they just put the title on her. That was the whole plan. And they're like, oh, we're all done. We got a star. We'll just treat her in like a star, but we'll put her in there with Queen Awanada and Anna Jay. But she's a star, so it can help for the other one. No, that's not how that works. You literally have a Thunder Rosa in your company. You literally have a Jamie Hayter in your company. I understand. Okay, let's save them for a bigger feud. That's all fine and dandy. You don't have time for that right now. Like this company being in cruise control is very alarming at times to me. That's the thing that feels alarming because the storytelling and the saving of matches, that was fine back in 2021, even in 2022. But right now, it's not. It's not looking good right now.
It scares me slightly because I wanted the TV deal to be like, you know, impetus to like, now we really kick on and move forward as a company. And I am increasingly concerned that instead the TV deal was kind of like, well, we did it, guys, you know, and that's the way it feels sometimes. And I don't want to believe that. I'm sure that isn't everyone, but it just feels like a little bit of like, well, we did it. And it's about Mariah. What makes the Mariah one more frustrating is they did like a victory lap about the angle with Tony. Remember the Wembley press week, all the different interviews about and it's like, they didn't even have a follow-up ready.
They had nothing to follow it up. Nothing.
It's frustrating, man.
She had a TV angle with Queen Avenada. She had a month-long angle with Anna Jay. And then she had the matchup, the great match with Willow Nightingale at Wrestle Dream. But that's the outlier. And even that, I was trying to make sense of that on AEW. I was like, why didn't they just put Mariah in a 3-way feud with Willow and Statlander? And then Mariah steals the victory from Statlander, and that's how Statlander turns babyface. I'm sorry. Literally, in like less than a minute, I came up with a better way to turn her babyface than what they did.
Well, even the finish in Chicago was wrong because if you're going to split Kris and Stoke, and Willow's going to work for the world title, obviously they should be like, why did Kris win? Right? So all of this is, again, it's hard to invest in the stories because you don't trust the destination. And that's a shame because the matches, I mean, the talent is killer. And we saw that even on Wednesday, right? Darby and Claudio. My God, what a great match. So
literally, I was like, that saved this whole show from being a thumbs down for me. I gave it a thumbs in the middle, 6.5, because I was like, I love that Claudio and Darby. I was like, Claudio has joined the list with Samoa Joe and Brody King as the perfect Darby Allin opponents.
Yeah, that match was killer. And that's the thing is there's, you know, for all of our conversation here, and it is frustrating, there's good stuff on most of the TV. It's just you wish it had more substance from a sort of, you know, an emotional point of view. You wish you cared about it more than just like cool match. And I love cool matches, don't get me wrong. I don't believe in the idea that there's no stories. I just think they need to tell their stories better. That's my biggest thing. Yeah. The stories are there, they're just bad.
Because of what we do, we have to analyze stuff and think twice about it. And it just feels like they don't do that. Like that's
Yeah, I know.
a lot of times, because I was like, I was like, the Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly thing. If you want to make the Death Riders feel more important, why didn't Kyle O'Reilly said, you're too obsessed with MJF? You need to focus on this group that's trying to take over this company. You came out at Wrestle Dream, but you've been like separated from this whole thing, and get Adam Cole back involved, because you can use whatever's left of Adam Cole's star power for this angle at least.
Yeah, we're when we get into MJF from Roderick Strong, that's there's a lot moving. There's a lot of moving pieces there, brother. That's it. That's a little bit of a traumatic one for me. So just give me some time on that.
Nuanced conversation.
Yeah, because a lot of these things I'm like disconnected from, but that one I actually care about, so it makes me more mad. But it is what it is, folks. We're here nonetheless. We're trying our best to have fun.
We're trying. But you know how we start these pay-per-view previews, Joe? From 0 to 10, what is your anticipation level for tomorrow's show?
I mean, this is difficult in the sense that, like, I think it will be a good wrestling show. But that your question isn't that. Your question is anticipation. And I will be lying if I said more than 5, dude. I'm going to 5. I hate that I'm doing this. We've done many of these shows before, and I've never said that to you, right? Have I ever said 5? But I don't like. Again, anticipation was the word used. There's not a lot here that I'm anticipating. That I'm like, I can't wait to see. Yeah. I think you'll be good. I just can't. I can't go higher than a 5, which is very sad.
I can't go higher than a 6. I'll give it a 6, only because I think a couple of these matches are killer. But even I feel more down about this card than I did about Wrestle Dream, because at least Wrestle Dream, that was the great part of the Moxley Death Rider story.
Yes,
the stuff with him and Bryan leading into Wrestle Dream. So like when I did the preview for that show, I was like, yeah, this is strictly for Bryan and Moxley. This is my score, my anticipation, my situation. But this show doesn't have that. Like the Moxley and Orange, I will talk about it more, but I'm just like not invested because of how they've done things.
Yeah, we'll get into it. It definitely isn't the same as Dragon, at home with his career hanging in the balance. Like, it don't feel like that. Definitely not.
But let's get into the card. We have one announced matchup right now for the 0 hour, as it is going to be QT Marshall going one-on-one with Big Boom AJ, with Big Justice, with the Rizzler as the special guest timekeeper or ring beller. I don't know what they're going to say, but hey, this has been mostly a social media feud between the two. Apparently, QT Marshall did something with the chocolate cookie thing, and it pissed off Big Boo AJ, and this led to AJ signing a contract with AEW for one official match after making his on-screen debut on the 0 hour at All Out. And now he's going to go one-on-one in his one-match contract in his hometown of Newark, New Jersey, or New Jersey in general, because he's Italian. They're from all over Jersey. Against QT Marshall here. So, can't believe I just described that feud.
That's awesome. we did this big, like, sweeping, severe conversation. You're like, anyway, up first, Big Boom AJ, and that's wrestling. I love it. By the way, Big Boom AJ's render is insane. By the way, I've only just like fully looked at it when you put that on screen, and it is an insane. Look at his face. But you know what, man? Like, I've seen people get really mad about this stuff, and I actually have like no beef for this at all.
I literally, the only thing I said is that I'm probably not the audience for this, but hey, it's entertaining somebody. It's in its hometown. I get it.
And it will definitely produce like a viral clip when he'll do like a Canadian Destroyer or some dumb, like he'll do something. And already the clip from Wednesday did good, and it's on the pre-show. It hasn't taken up much TV time. Like I honestly have no. Also the thing is these like celebrity crossovers. Celebrity feels generous, but he's popular, right? Yeah. These things are part of wrestling, and he has a wrestling background, and like, I don't know. To me, this is harmless fun. I obviously am not like the audience for it either, clearly, but I'm sure it will. I mean, QT's got to watch himself on that power bomb, brother. That thing looked terrifying when he took it last time. So that's the only thing I would say. But 0 Hour, I'm going to go on a limb and say that Big Boom AJ is going to get the job done here. Although QT winning would be one of the funniest 2010s Vince booking. He just beats
to
him.
get his heat after, just for Big Boom to get the heat after.
Yeah, but this will be fun. I think I haven't got any problem with this on the pre-show, especially.
Yeah, I don't have any issue, especially when I found out that he was signing a 1-match contract. I was like, that's interesting. And then when I saw this for the 0 Hour at Full Gear, I was like, okay, that makes more sense. So yeah. I think this is entirely harmless. If it works to get them the clicks and they get the viral clip with him hitting some big move, maybe gets picked up by a bigger outlet, you never know. You never know.
You sure don't.
The Rizzler will get some. Jimmy Fallon will play what the Rizzler does in this matchup.
Well, he's the real star, right? I mean, I don't know a lot about this group, but I'm aware the Rizzler is the real star, so he'll get a huge pop, I'm sure. And this should be good fun, no doubt.
I agree. All right, Joe. I hope you're prepared. I hope you took the time to get ready and talk about it. Because if we know anything, MJF will be pushing to say, hey, I'm not main eventing, so I should open the show. So let's talk about MJF going one-on-one with Roderick Strong. MJF, of course, made his return to AEW at Wrestle Dream, attacking Daniel Garcia with the help of Jack Perry. But then out came Adam Cole, baby, for the first time, running down to the ring as he was fully healed from his ankle injury, trying to get his hands on MJF after his attack on him at Double or Nothing. And then we had Adam Cole call out MJF, but it was Roderick Strong and the Undisputed Kingdom who came out and told him that they wanted to get their hands on MJF as well. But MJF wasn't going to show up to AEW until either Adam Cole or Roderick Strong won 3 straight matches, and whoever did that would get a match with MJF at AEW Full Gear. It was Adam Cole who picked up a win against the House of Black members, Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black, but came up short against Konosuke Takeshita after MJF paid off Don Callis to get some Don Callis family help to get the win with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. But Roderick Strong did get the win as he picked up victories over Shane Taylor, the Beast Mortos, and Lance Archer to get this matchup. And MJF made it personal on Dynamite on Wednesday when he brought up Roderick Strong's upbringing and the fact that his mother shot his father, and says by the end of Full Gear, he will wish that his mother shot him instead. That was another interesting timeline to go over. But I left out a lot of different parts. Left out the part of Adam Cole being basically turned on by the AEW fans. And a lot of that is down to issues that a lot of us saw from like the minute go, from his first promo back, when they basically tried to give him, and he did it in a couple of promos, the rah-rah AEW speech, but never, and then he tried to explain to us why MJF is an asshole and a heel, instead of ever explaining why you, the devil who attacked people and turned on MJF before MJF turned on him, how are you the babyface? Never did he cut a promo that really explained that at all. He just kept trying to explain to us why MJF is the villain here. And I was just like, that's not the part you need to explain. You need to explain why you're the hero. So I think that the punishment for that not getting over and not making sense is that Adam Cole's not even in this matchup that was legitimately, I think we all knew this was supposed to be Adam Cole here. But Roderick Strong is back on pay-per-view. He always delivers on pay-per-view. Him and MJF is a fresh matchup, so I'm interested in it. I do like what MJF said to kind of make it more personal. I did not like Roderick Strong's response to it. But what have you thought, Joe?
This is all terribly sad. This is all, I have a vested interest in this in multiple directions, and it's just, you know me well enough to know that there's very few things I would like to be excited for more than this match, for a range of reasons. And I think these two guys could have a great wrestling match. Like in either which way, too. I think if Max is the babyface and Roddy is the aggressive heel, Roddy is the baby. I think either way they can have a great wrestling match, and they still might have one tomorrow. Hopefully they do. You know, this is one of the matches I'm most looking forward to, even with all of this. But unfortunately, the build for this has been like all-time bad stuff, man. It missed on every level. We didn't even get the part of like the Roddy 3 matches should have been the easiest part, and even that part wasn't even really good. Like those matches felt hurried, and the Maltos match was like about like some strange lore where again, there's just if nothing else, you would have assumed the part where Roderick Strong wrestles 3 matches would have been good, right? But even that part was like not really. Like none of those matches were notable.
No.
Max hasn't been around. Cole, unfortunately, and I genuinely feel bad even speaking on at this point because he's just been brutal. Like, he's been terrible, unfortunately. It is what it is. It's the creative has been really bad, and so his performance. I feel bad for him. He missed a lot of time. It is what it is. This is a mess, dude. And my concern for this match is like, what is the crowd dynamic going to be for this? Because like, I love Roddy Strong. Are we really expecting Newark to cheer Roddy here? Like, he's been a heel the whole run, basically. His babyface turn hasn't really even been a turn. He just wants to fight Max. And MJF is super popular. He just spent 2 months trying to get himself booed, did so, and now they're doing this, which is going to get him cheered all over again. And so this is where you get kind of like in the weeds of, I want to be really excited for this match, and I am excited for it because it's 2 people I like watching. You know, I think they can have a great match, but it feels like they're going to make this a lot harder for the talent, you know? Like, I don't know what the crowd's going to do with this. Luckily, Roderick Strong is a demon inside those ropes and should be able to make it work. Max, I think they should gel. MJF is definitely winning. The question to me is more like, what sort of match are we going to get here? Are we going to get MJF wrestling this the way he wrestled Daniel Garcia, which was clearly like an effort to present Daniel as being a big deal? Or is Max going to protect himself and do some hechicero business and say, 10 minutes in and out, brother? Let's get it. Because I'll be honest, if ever there was a time that called for that, unfortunately, this might be it, because this shit is a mess, brother. I mean, it's just all over the place. None of it adds up. It's terrible.
No.
It's real sad.
You try to follow up on a storyline that just fell apart. It just fell apart before your eyes, and it became like basically an angle that people look at as like the start of the demise of AEW in a lot of ways, because that was like the big angle that was going on in the midst of Punk doing the All In stuff and then leaving the promotion, and then Adam Cole. It was going well. People try to paint it out as it was completely terrible, but it all fell apart when Adam Cole jumps off the ramp at Grand Slam. That's where it all falls apart, and it never recovered. The whole devil angle it went over like a wet fart. It didn't have the big kind of the angle that made people reinvest in AEW in any shape or form. And it feels like it's killed Adam Cole as like a babyface. He can't be a babyface. Like literally, like every time he cuts a promo, I'm waiting for him to be heel. Like at this point, because you did that whole big thing with the devil angle, and he's not going to be as big of a babyface now because you haven't done the most minor thing is explain to us, how are you a babyface right now?
But
just because you love AEW? I'm sorry.
Right.
Everyone loves AEW here, apparently.
But it would have been easier to like convince people if he just started with something new completely. But the fact that he's a babyface against the guy he betrayed is like, it's impossible, dude, because you're actively reminding us of the devil angle. If he came back and there was not one mention of it, you could maybe get away with it. He's come back, and as you say, he's actively tried to retcon the devil thing. And, you know, look, I love Kyle O'Reilly's a great wrestler. Roderick Strong's one of my all-time favorites. Neither of them are the most dynamic personalities. And so it's like Max is on a movie set, you know, watching along in his lair, and it's really terribly unfortunate, bro. I mean, this actually bums me out, like legitimately. I wish this was even slightly better, because I think, again, the match should be great, but I don't know.
It's sad. I do agree with you. I think the match will be really good between these two guys, regardless of how much time it gets, because we never know with MJF. But I think because it's in Newark, it will be a pretty hot crowd, and knowing him, he'll try to push his way into that opening match spot. I think he'll get a good reaction regardless of the awful build, the sad build to this match, the sad storyline that they're involved in right now. I think that the big thing will be Max getting the win, and then they do an angle that pays off with all the promo, the weird promo that we got between Cole and O'Reilly. And that means that Max has to like injure Roddy in some way or change Roddy in some way.
Which means that Roddy won't be in the C2, which is honestly worse than anything we've talked about. That's like a national incident that we cannot withstand. I had the exact same conclusion and it made me very mad. So yeah, I think that's what we're doing here. That O'Reilly segment on Wednesday was like bonkers pro wrestling, by the way.
It was like, clue. What are we doing? What is this? What are you even talking about? Why are y'all acting like MJF is an evil person? You're the ones that turned on him.
And it's the Roddy thing. Okay, we'll move on after this, folks, I promise. But the Roddy story, he told it on NXT TV. And it's an amazing, like, staggering backstory that he has. And he's been, he's shared it in the past. And I think when he did it on NXT, it shocked people because I don't think he'd spoken on it at all, really, like, before that.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, modern Dynamite that they just plucked it out of the air for the sake of this match on, like, one night's...
Yeah, I was like, they could have set this up a lot better. Yes. Like the whole promo he had last week after getting the win, it should have been, I'm nothing like Max. I was brought up, and my mother shot my father. I've had a rough upbringing. He's had a silver spoon up his mouth. So yeah, the whole promo that he did after MJF's promo should have been the one he did before MJF's promo. Because I felt like that was way off because he should have been angry. Him saying, "Oh, you sound like the kids when I was growing up. I'm too grown to be upset of that." No, that's not the point of wrestling. Wrestling, we don't want to see someone who is adult enough to move on and not be affected by that. We want to see you angry, especially if you want us to be invested in this matchup on Saturday.
It's always like such a serious story, and for Max to just like Max just said it in a promo, and the audience was just like left to figure it out for themselves whether he was being serious or not, or like because most people don't know it, right? It's not like I mean, when they did it on NXT, that was when it was on the network too. So it's not even. I don't know, man. As you can tell, this is not going great for either of us. I feel this conversation. I mean, it's just hopefully when the bell rings,
we're even more down on this matchup.
I really but Roddy's so good inside those ropes that hopefully we can overcome this and they can have a killer match. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm praying, in fact, for that, to be honest with you. We need it.
I'm praying for it as well. I'm hoping. MJF, outside of Hechicero, I think he's had a good run this year on pay-per-view since coming back. The Ospreay matchup and Garcia matchups were both great. So I'm hoping this one is along those lines.
Hopefully
Speaking of ones we're hopeful can match matches of the past, we want to see if this match can match what they did at Wrestle Dream. You had Switchblade Jay White going one-on-one with Hangman Adam Page. This New Japan Pro Wrestling rivalry has came over to AEW this year with Hangman Adam Page getting his first victory over Switchblade Jay White in the Owen Hart Cup. But that was after Jay White got yet another victory over Hangman Adam Page before that last year. And then Switchblade got yet another victory over Hangman Adam Page at Wrestle Dream in what I thought was a fantastic opener to the show. And since then, Hangman has been feeling the effects of the work Jay White did on his leg. He's been noticeably limping during brawls between the two, as well as during his matches. And that's led to Switchblade Jay White saying that he wants to be the first man to tap out Hangman Adam Page. Hangman has cost Switchblade Jay White a matchup against Christian Cage. He's gotten victories over him in a tag team match with Christian Cage against Jay White and Juice. And Hangman is obsessed with proving that he can beat Switchblade Jay White. Not as much as he was obsessed with Swerve, but he's getting there. He's getting there, and he wants to prove his point by getting the win on the show that was named after him, as he said. What have you thought about the build to this rematch? What did you think about their match at Wrestle Dream? Who do you think wins on Saturday? Myself, I love both of these guys. I think they're two of the best, two of probably the two of the most underrated as well, because I feel like these guys should be in your top 6, top 7 in the whole entire company. I do like this feud because it feels like whoever wins will get propelled up to the level that they should be at. Which makes me worried about the result, as I was with Wrestle Dream. I am worried about the result of this one as well, but I've been loving Switchblade Jay White as a babyface so much. It feels like something that shouldn't work as well as it works, because always the guys outside of like Flair, the guys that we think of prototypical career heels, they never really translate as baby faces. Case in point, a guy that I compare Jay White to so many times, Triple H. I feel like Jay White is Triple H in 2000, except he's been that for like the past 4 years. Triple H was just that for 1 year. But he never really translated to me as a babyface unless it was in DX. Jay White has been able to do that in his own kind of version of DX, but he made that heel faction into a babyface faction. His work in the ring has translated very well, where he just feels like a smarter wrestler than the person he's facing, like the case in point in that matchup with Hangman Adam Page. Really looking forward to this one. Just worried about the result. What have you thought about everything going in?
Yeah, I really liked the Wrestle Dream match. Well, they had a killer match, and I'm with you. I think Jay has done a nice job. Like, there's definitely it's challenging in some ways because he's such a natural heel, as you said, but he's done a good job. The people have been with him. Well, I think the angles building this have been like solid. The only thing I would say is I'm surprised there hasn't been more of like an escalation. Like, I thought this would be a step or something, but I think they're saving that for the third AEW match. I guess not third, but I'm saying in this sort of particular series.
In this series,
obviously, yeah, because I know they work in the oven, as you mentioned. So that's the only thing I'd say. I do wonder about like if the people are going to kind of see it as a step up from the last match. But either way, I mean, the match is going to be really good because we've already seen what these guys do together, right? They're just not going to have a bad match. I mean, mechanically, they're so good. They have good chemistry. Hangman has had a really, really good year. And I think he gets the win here. This is an interesting one in terms of direction. You mentioned about kind of being propelled into the title scene. If you look ahead to World's End and what Moxley's doing there, like, these two guys, I think, are in that orbit, right? In some way or another. I don't know what that looks like yet, but yeah, I think this will be very, very good. I've got Hangman winning probably via cheating in some form or fashion. The big X factor, I think, they need to make sure that Hangman continues and isn't this, he returns to kind of feel like a main character. This feud has been good, but they have to be careful because he closed the Chicago show as like the main guy. And he's slowly going back to just kind of veering, right? So that'll be a big X factor here. Should be a very good match. I've got Hangman Page.
Yeah, they have to like make this and make the result of this kind of stand out in a way. I think that you are probably right. Just to set up a third kind of stipulation matchup, Hangman Adam Page should win this one, get his win back. I say that begrudgingly because I'm such a big Switchblade Jay White fan. I love Switchblade Jay White. I think that he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Should be top 5 in this whole entire company because he can work. He's great he's one of the all-time greats, in my opinion, as a heel. But he is great also as a babyface, which is very rare in this business. Someone can work on both sides like that. I think Switchblade Jay White is one of those guys. Hangman Adam Page has obviously proven himself to be an ace, a workhorse for All Elite Wrestling. I expect this to be one of the best matches on the show. I got Hangman winning, and it's one of the rare matches on the show that the build, like you said, was perfectly solid. It was good. My only complaint is I probably wanted more.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have felt like more of a main event angle. The actual stuff they did was good, though. Yeah.
We got Big Man Dogs. He says submission match could have been fun. Have AEW ever done that? I believe they have. I just can't come up with it off the top of my head.
They've done a lot of stip matches, but I don't remember one. There has to be one, right? There has to be.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be at least one. But I will get back to you. But we shall see who picks up the win. I think both guys, though, will be in the Continental Classic.
I tend to agree unless Moxley is going to be like in the middle of their feud. Because I'm trying to figure out what Moxley's doing, and I could see them doing something like that. That's the only way I could see otherwise. But my guess is, yeah, Continental Classic, yeah.
Yeah, I think you could probably that would be interesting if Moxley gets in the middle of their feud, make it a three-way, and
Yeah.
that would probably be. I think they're gonna do Jay versus Moxley in Australia.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because I'm trying to figure out, like, at one point I thought Mox was going to work with Joe, and now I've concluded that Joe's working with Jericho. I've already accepted my fate in that regard. So,
He's like, nothing's going well for me, guys.
I mean, Jericho's the guy who wrote him off. He's the Ring of Honor champ. I've already, like, accepted it, and, you know, it is what it is. But that'll be interesting. The next step of this, I'm not actually sure of. But either way, this match should be very good, definitely.
Hey, one thing that this card, despite us being at a 5 and 6 out of 10 respectively going into this show, I think I might get a bump up to 6.5 by the end of our preview because I'm realizing that it doesn't have Chris Jericho. So based on the statistics of the last couple of shows, pay-per-views that didn't have Chris Jericho, they knocked out the park expectations that were low. All Out 2024, All Out 2023. So
good point. I hadn't considered that. Okay, that is a factor I'll keep in mind for the rest of this show. Good call.
The no Jericho factor. The no Jericho factor does get a bump up. Two other guys that I think might get into the Continental Classic, or probably should because they would be killer in it, is a grudge match that will go down at AEW Full Gear. It will be Will Ospreay going one-on-one with Kyle Fletcher. These longtime friends have basically become bitter enemies coming off the heels of what went down at Wrestle Dream. Of course, Kyle Fletcher was kind of a junior of sorts to Will Ospreay as in the pandemic. It was Will Ospreay who opened up his home to Kyle Fletcher, kind of mentoring him, helping him out, opening the door for him into All Elite Wrestling. The two had that killer matchup on AEW Dynamite earlier this year. They even teamed up together and became the number one contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Championships at Grand Slam, but came up short when Ospreay stopped Fletcher from using the screwdriver given to him by Don Callis against the Young Bucks. From there, we had Will Ospreay defending the AEW International Championship against Konosuke Takeshita and Ricochet at Wrestle Dream, and it was Kyle Fletcher who came out stabbing Will Ospreay in the back and in the head, literally, with a screwdriver, laying him out before Konosuke Takeshita won the International Championship. And then post-match, Kyle Fletcher delivered a Tiger Driver 97, the move that's haunted Will Ospreay this entire year, and delivered that to him, taking him out of action for a while. From there, Kyle Fletcher wanted to separate himself from Will Ospreay, so he decided to change up his whole look, shaving his head, saying that he is nothing like Will Ospreay, comparing his actions against Ospreay to Ospreay's actions against Kazuchika Okada in New Japan Pro Wrestling and Kenny Omega and NJPW and AEW. And he said that he just did what Will would have done in the same exact situation, which Will has come back and returned and shown that fire back at Fletcher, asking him, is he a Will Ospreay clone or does he want to be his own man? Is he nothing like him or is he just like him? And he wants to prove that one-on-one at Full Gear. It's a Will Ospreay match on pay-per-view. Like he said in the promo, he's Mr. Pay-per-view. So you know this is going to deliver. What have you thought about the build to this matchup, and who do you think wins on Saturday?
I'm torn on this because I'm mostly positive on what they've done, right? Like, I think they've clearly circled Fletcher as a guy they want to feature and push. And I'm glad to see that they've like committed to that. Like, they've actually consistently featured him, right? And they've put him in big spots. And I think to his credit, I think he's done a really good job with what he's been given. Like, I think he's taken it seriously and he's tried to present himself like a wrestling star. He's gone through like 4 different looks. But that's part of it, right? Like, I appreciate that he's doing that. And his matches are good and his work has been sharp for a while now. So I'm positive on that as a play call and a direction. The one part of this that I'm torn on is the way they've told this story. It feels like Fletcher needs to win in some ways. And it's not that I have a huge problem with that, but there's a part of me that just feels like is that necessarily the best thing for the promotion right now? And again, I say all of that with like nothing against what Kyle Fletcher's done. I'm watching the show, brother, and Will is like the guy on that show. It's like him, Swerve, I guess, would be they'd be the top two right now, I think, in terms of reaction.
Yeah.
And I know Will Ospreay is very selfless, and I appreciate that about Will Ospreay, but my concern would be that Kyle winning here would actually just kind of pull Ospreay closer to the pack rather than push Kyle up. Does that make get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I don't know. This is not like a take I'm firm on at this point. Like, it is what it is. I think the match will be absolutely spectacular, and will probably be, if you were putting money on what will be like the kind of consensus show stealer, I'd imagine this will be the vote that will win for the fans. So I think it'll be great. I think Fletcher's going to win. I think he's going to win due to like a Mark Davis turn.
That's what it seems like they're building to.
Yeah, and that's one of those AEW things where I'm not sure the audience cares as much as they think they do, And I mean that a lot. I think Mark Davis is awesome. It's not him.
Me too.
But it's like Chuck Taylor in the main event angle, right? Where it's like, oh my god, he beat up Chuck Taylor. It's like, well, I mean, but nonetheless, I'm going to take Fletcher by Mark Davis interference. I haven't got a big issue with it because I think Kyle has been really good. I'm not sure this is the time, brother. I've got to be honest with you. I'm not sure.
That is why I'm going with Will Ospreay to get the win.
Okay.
I think there's a time and place. Like, this is the difference. I like, take case in point, Crown Jewel. When it was Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, I was like, nah, you got to put over Bronson Reed. You've done all this work to build him up. He's got to get the win over Seth Rollins. And then Seth Rollins won, and it was all right. It was fine. He's fine. He's in a better position now than he was after that. But I still think Bronson Reed should have won there. This is an instance where I understand that Will wants to probably put over Kyle, give him his biggest win, do it on the pay-per-view where everybody's going to see. You turn Mark Davis heel. We got a great heel tag team in Aussie Open. So it checks a lot of boxes. That's an interesting outcome. But I think the right outcome is keeping Will Ospreay from losing on pay-per-view again. Like, you got him to lose against Swerve. You got him to lose against Takeshita. I think that's enough for the year. For the year. We can have him win here, and then, like I said, Will and Kyle are in the Continental Classic, and then let Kyle get his win back in the Continental Classic. How about that?
Sure.
How about that? That's fine.
Yeah, and to your Seth comparison, the other thing there is that, like, Seth is beloved, but he's on a roster where there's a lot of baby faces that are really rocking right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not currently the case in AEW, right? Like,
no.
Will is basically the one seed, and I just
you got three. You got three, and you're holding on to them for dear life. It's Will, it's Swerve, and it's Stark.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not saying that if Will loses, he's going to walk into silence. Neither is saying that, but it's just, you want to protect Will as being special, right? Like, you don't want to just have him as a guy who's always putting people over all the time on pay-per-view. I mean, even with the shenanigans and such. So, yeah, I would have Will winning here. I think Kyle is going to win, and as you can tell, I'm very, very, very unsure of that as a decision. We'll see.
You could do the Mark Davis heel turn in the post-match. Post-match, Mark Davis comes out, and he turns on Will. He joins up with Kyle Fletcher. Kyle gets his heat back in the post-match, and then Kyle wins in the Continental Classic. See? That's how you protect your big star, and you still make another star in the process.
Yeah, I think there needs to be. We'll see what they do. Sometimes I think they overestimate how aware the audience is of some of the things they're doing. And it's like, when Mark Davis walked out on TV and was like yelling at Kyle Fletcher, you could tell there were people in the crowd that had no earthly idea what was going on.
It's like, who is this man? Who is this man?
I mean, you'll probably remember better than me. So how long were Aussie Open like a push team on AEW TV before he got hurt? Poor Mark. It wasn't long, right?
I think calling them a push team would be generous. But I would say that they got to AEW and started showing up semi-regularly on AEW and ROH since, like, it was from April of 2023 through like October of 2020.
Okay, so then you have like a year of Kyle being like a singles guy, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when Aussie Open worked FTR on pay-per-view, you could tell the AEW audience hadn't connected with Aussie Open yet because they didn't seem to know that was a big match, right? We all thought it was a big match. The crowd didn't. So you just have to be a bit aware of those things. And it's not a reflection of Mark Davis, who, by the way, I thought he looked great on Wednesday. I mean, after a year out the ring, I thought he looked spectacular. His offense was sharp. He's a really good pro wrestler. So there's a lot of moving pieces here, but we do have to stress. I mean, we both said it. This match is going to be probably great, right? I mean, I'd imagine this will be.
Yes.
I imagine this will be great. So that'll be good. Definitely.
This will be up there as far as people saying this was the best match on the show. For sure.
Yeah. I think this will be winning the post-show polls, I think. That's my guess, yeah.
I think that's fair. Then we got a matchup that should be very fun for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Private Party. Zay and Quinn will defend the AEW World Tag Team titles for the first time against former champions, The Acclaim, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, the Outrunners, Turboy Floyd and Truth Magnum, and the Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King. It was Private Party who finally won the big one, beating the Young Bucks on Fright Night Dynamite to finally win the AEW World Tag Team Championships. They cut the big promo saying that they wanted to face the best and any of the teams on the AEW Tag Team division on the episode of Collision following that. And then we saw the basically the bracket for the AEW Full Gear 4-Way Contender Series that saw the Outrunners picking up the win against Top Flight, saw Kings of the Black Throne pulling off an upset against former two-time AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR, and the Acclaim finally grabbed the last spot, beating LFI in tag team action on Collision. So these four teams battling at it. It's an interesting mix of teams. This is probably one of the first times in a while that an AEW World Tag, I think it's the first time on pay-per-view this year that the AEW World Tag Team titles are being defended with no Young Bucks or FTR involved. So this is them actually kind of spreading things out for the tag team division for once. I will say, despite even if like this is where we were at and we only got this far, I will say the tag team division is in better shape than the last time we talked about tag team title matches on pay.
It's the old adage of like they've at least admitted there's a problem, you know, like they're trying. I think I'd be more excited for this if the Acclaim lost to Roosh and Mortos personally. Yes. Now I know that a lot of the audience loves Acclaim. That's just me personally. This is a wacky group of talent. It isn't the most like you don't exactly look at it and go, man, what great tag division, but this may have sneaky heat in the building because I think people are going to really get into the idea of the Outrunners winning the belts here. Like, I think the live crowd is just going to get in on that. Fatal 4-Way tags are always very reliant on like placement and agenting. Private Party are obviously naturally suited to these matches with all of their cool tandem moves and such. I would say the big X factor in terms of match quality are the House of Black or the Kings of the Black Throne because like if they're on, they can really make this match tick. If Malachi's in a certain mood, it may not be so fun. But Private Party have to win. I guess the one kind of angle element would be like, I think at some point FTR are turning on the Outrunners. I don't think it will happen here, but at some point I think that's what we're getting. So maybe that's something to monitor moving forward. But Private Party will get a win, I assume. I'm sure will be a fun crowd pleaser. It's a fatal 4-way tag, right? They're going to do a whole lot of moves, and the crowd, I think, will like it. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I think the only reason you put the Acclaim in here is that they should have some type of progression on the growing dissension between the two, or we see MVP come out or be watching backstage of this matchup because they're very much pushing that Max Caster might be about to turn on Anthony Bowens and join up with the Hurt Syndicate. So I think that's the only reason you have them in this matchup. Outrunners, you have them because I feel like they're the only other team besides the champions who could realistically, I wouldn't mind winning this matchup because of how popular and how their popularity has kind of skyrocketed on AEW TV. And I think that will lead to what you were talking about previously, the FTR heel turn. I think once the Outrunners win the tag team titles or get close to the tag team titles, like one-on-one or a 2-on-2 matchup, I think that when we will see FTR grow frustrated that they are kind of passing them in the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's actually I think Dax can actually do some good stuff with kind of being like, all right, this was all fun and games at first, but now this is just, you're making a mockery of this great sport. I think he can have fun with that as a heel. So yeah, I think that will be like a nice thing for the tag division. Hopefully this over delivers and rocks the house, because that'd be great for Private Party, right? Like to have a real triumphant night on pay-per-view. We shall see. And a very wacky lineup, I must say. It doesn't really make sense on paper, but maybe it'll work in reality. We'll see.
This match seems tailor-made for Brody King to stand out.
Brody
King excels in these multi-man matches, whether it be trios action, whether it be a multi-tag team matchup like this one. This seems like something that he can excel at. Malachi Black will tease a singles matchup with someone that he would never have a singles match with, as he always does in these multi-man matchups. So I always look forward to that. And in the end, yes, I do agree with you. I think Private Party retains, but I'm interested to see what's going to be their real kind of first feud as the champions.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe they're kind of heating up Cage and Archer, right? Kind of. So maybe they'll do something with those guys. I mean, heating up is generous, but they're like on TV and stuff. So maybe them.
And they're undefeated. They're just squashing people.
Yeah, exactly. They are. I'm being silly, but they are kind of. I think they are going to push those guys as a team, which is cool. I mean, I think that's a good spot for both of those guys. So that would be fun.
Very true. We do have a super chat donation that I think I missed from the King Ellie show. Once again, thank you so much, King Ellie. I'll ask you first, Joe. He asks, do you think it was a mistake to take the belt off of Swerve, looking at how things are going?
This is difficult. So, because I was at Wembley, I feel like I'd be lying to myself if I said, yes, because, I mean, you know how that was, dude. I mean, you got even more close-up experience of that. I mean, that was, what I would say is, I don't think anyone would have begrudged them just going straight back to Swerve, to be honest. If Washington was Brian Swerve too, would you have complained? I wouldn't have. I'd have been all in, to be honest with you. That's what I would say. I don't think it's so much the the champion. I think it's more the surrounding pieces and how hard they went with the Moxley angle that they've kind of now done a half step back on. So my answer is no, even though it sounds like yes. Because again, it's complicated, right? There's so much the moving pieces here. But I'll say it isn't as much Swerve, it's more where they went instead of Swerve, I guess.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, because like you said, we were both there in Wembley Stadium. The right result was Bryan Danielson picking up the win, and you don't necessarily, you necessarily won't go in, won't have the same problems that you're having now if Swerve would have kept the title at that show. So I can't say that taking off Swerve was the real turning point for where we're at now. I think that it comes down to really, I think the overarching problem is it feels like Tony Khan and the company in general have taken their foot off the gas. They took it slightly off the gas after All In, and they definitely just been on cruise control since they got the TV deal. It's been ridiculous. It's been obvious, and there's no arguing that. That's the main issue, and that would have happened whether Swerve's the champion or not.
The one thing I would say about the Swerve element, there was that moment when Swerve and Will wrestled, and then Will worked with Max, and Swerve was working with Hangman, and it was like that kind of dynasty era that they were going with for a minute there, where it felt like it was a little bit of a new day. Jon Moxley's a great talent, and he's been very good in a lot of this angle. But it has to be said, him winning the belt from Bryan did feel like a shift kind of to left field initially. When that was first rumored, I was like, what? Once I saw it happen, it made more sense because the angles were really good, as we mentioned. But I remember talking to you months ago, we were both convinced Hangman was going to be the one that beats Bryan. Remember, we was convinced that was, and it was all going to loop back to Swerve. That is not where they've gone. So I think, it's been, it's difficult to be critical of Moxley because I think he's actually been very good in a lot of this. But I'm not sure it was the right time to pull the trigger on his like save AEW, like cult leader thing.
Yeah. I don't know about that part of it, but I really don't feel like that is not the issue. The main issue that
Yeah,
this whole thing is having is that they've not committed enough. They
that's
haven't
yeah.
committed enough to it, and that's why it feel and they've also been doing these dead buildings the past 2 weeks, so it just makes the angle feel even more flat.
That's why it's hard to be critical of Mox, because it's like they've done it half-heartedly. So we'll never know like how this would be feeling right now if they went all in and all the top baby faces were vying. We will never know, right? So it's a shame.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is insane. We got Big Man Dogs. He says Brian Swerve was so good, so I don't want to miss out on that with Brian losing. Gotta understand that. I understand that for sure. But yeah, we both got Private Party winning the tag team title matchup. But next we got for the TBS championship, it will be Mercedes Mone defending against Kris Statlander. The last time we saw Kris Statlander on pay-per-view was at AEW All Out when she picked up the win over Willow Nightingale in a Chicago street fight. On that same show, it was Mercedes Mone who defeated Hikaru Shida to retain the TBS championship. And since then, Kris Statlander has gotten the ire of Mercedes Mone by targeting the TBS championship, wanting to pick back up the title that she feels she should have never lost last year at Full Gear when she lost it in a three-way match without being pinned, and wants to regain the gold here. You've had Camille try to get in the way of Kris Statlander, who was the first woman to defeat Camille in AEW and has made her look like a fool ever since, injuring her arm. They tried to run her down with an automobile, but missed, and Kris Statlander beat them both up. She speared Mercedes Mone and Camille through a goddamn wall. And then this past Wednesday on Dynamite, after finally defeating Hikaru Shida, the three-time AEW Women's World Champion, she then dropped Mercedes Mone with the Wednesday Night Fever, showing that she can take out Mercedes at any point. So once again, I gave you all the good points without pointing out any of the bad stuff. And we had a serious conversation about Adam Cole, even though he's not on this card. And if it's over for Adam Cole or where he's at, the Adam Cole's wash thing has been a topic of discussion for a while. But something that hasn't got a discussion is the AEW run of Mercedes Mone. It's not in a good state either. Like, it's not the whole trajectory of Mercedes Mone and AEW, the AEW Women's Division, and AEW overall have all been trending in the same direction at the same time. It's like, it feels like you're having meteors drop down on AEW at the same time with all of this. But what have you thought about Mercedes' run overall, the build to this matchup? Did not mention the Kris Statlander turning babyface for no reason to start this angle, because I think I've talked about that.
Yeah. I hate to do the really dramatic "this is the match" thing, because it's such a lame talking point. We all do it. Like when we're in desperate need for content, we'll all be like, "This is the legacy game," So it's kind of lazy. So I'm not going to say it's a legacy game, because Mercedes Mone's legacy is secure. What I will say is this is a really important match, dude. Like Mercedes, there you go. Mercedes has had some good TV matches. I like the Willow match a lot. On pay-per-view, I think this needs to be really, really good, to be honest, because Kris Statlander is so reliable and has had such a strong, just like in any matchup, I feel like she's over-delivered in big spots for AEW. If this match doesn't, hit, then I think it will be legitimately alarming, and I don't take any pleasure in saying that, because that's a bummer. The bigger problem with Mercedes than the matches, because again, the match is what it is, right? Like, she had a bad match with Britt Baker. I mean, whatever. And the Sheeta match too, but nonetheless. Now, the bigger issue is the character element. And unfortunately, this CEO presentation with Camille and such has just been a complete miss. It hasn't connected with the AEW audience. When she comes out, she gets no real response. It's crazy. Who would have ever imagined that? So what I would suggest here is that you have Kris win and you just reset with Mercedes. You accept that this is not working. You start over and you try again with a new presentation, a different look, a different whatever it has to be. I don't know. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Mercedes is winning. So then the story becomes how good is the? I'm being, I just be honest, dude. I don't think she's losing the belt here. So then it becomes about like, what's the match quality, and then you have to worry about. Let's be honest, the crowd heat. I love Kris Statlander. She hasn't turned babyface really. She's just like not a heel anymore. There's no turn involved,
Nope.
On Wednesday, that crowd was awful on Wednesday, but they were trying to holy Sheeta when Kris was making a babyface comeback. I mean, it's crazy. So I wish I could be more excited. I'm more, honestly, than anything, I'm more like concerned because I just worry about what happens if this isn't good. I'll take Mercedes to win. This should be really good, man. It should be. I'm worried, to be honest with you. But I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to say it will be good. I've got Mercedes winning for better or worse.
The build to this matchup has been a comedy of errors because this really feels like an issue that already was an issue before the rivalry even started, because it feels like they did the whole turn of Kris Statlander on Willow Nightingale, right?
Yep.
And I think the reason that they did that was because Mercedes Moné came in. She wanted to be a babyface, so that was another babyface role. So let's put Kris as a heel because we don't have many of those heels because we just turned Timeless Tony Storm at the same time. So let's do it that way. We're going to turn Kris heel. And then Forbidden Door happened with the great match with Stephanie Vicaire, where Mercedes gets booed out the building in Long Island. So they decide to basically double down on that, make her a heel. They have Britt Baker coming in, and that helps for a month. And then it feels like ever since the Britt Baker feud, they just been like, all right, we got Sheeta. Here you go, Sheeta. We got Queen Aminata. Here you go. And okay. Kris Statlander. And they're like, no, she just turned heel. And they're like, oh no, we'll just retcon that. We'll just forget about that. The fans won't even remember that. But this is like a comedy of errors. You literally turned her heel to feud with probably Mercedes Moné. That was probably the genuine thought what happened at Double or Nothing or before Double or Nothing. And because Mercedes had to turn heel, it's basically caused what was going to happen here. So it's been over before it even started. And then the build to the matchup has it's just been comically bad. It's been like some bad, awful era SNL skits. The car, the fake car rundown, and then fucking Camille, they just buried her. They've just buried her. They built her up nice and they treated her well all up until she lost that first matchup at Fright Night Dynamite, because for the past month, they've been burying her. There's no better way to say it. This is a burial for someone who came in as a monster heel, a bodyguard for your champion, for now to treat her like she's Bulk and Skull or a fucking Bullwinkle villain. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Let's stop from the beginning. But at the end of the day, when the bell rings, these two women have been great. And they've been great at times this year, especially Kris Statlander. Like you said, she tore it up in one of the best women's matches in North America at All Out. So it was just a few months ago. And like I said, I love the Willow matchup. I love the Stephanie Vicaire matchup for Mercedes Moné. And Mercedes Moné is known for one thing. I mentioned it on the Fightful ROH post show yesterday, and I got to note it here. She is known for the match to build retrospective, like how you think about a feud overall, like months and years later. No one remembers that the build to Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 37 was god-awful trash. God-awful trash centered around Reggie. No one remembers that. They mainly talk about, mostly, if you ask 10 fans, they'll talk about they were the first black woman to main event WrestleMania, and oh yeah, the match was great. That's what they'll remember. But then, case in point, we're now 3 months after All In. And no one talks about the fact that Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker, the build was really good. No one talks about it because the match was a dud. like this has happened so many times to Mercedes, Sasha Banks, whatever you want to call her, that I'm hoping that this is another case of the Bianca Belair syndrome, where we only remember that it's a great match on Saturday and not the build going in.
I hope so, because when Mercedes came in, this would be one of the top matches I wanted to see her have. And I never could have imagined that by the time we got there, it would have looked like this. So hopefully the match is also, I mean, Mercedes is a legend and Kris is like, so to me, she's one of the best talents in the whole roster. So I'm excited. I'm talking myself into it. I'm trying my best here, bro,
I'm on top of it. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to go with Mercedes Mone to retain the championship. I do agree with you. Probably the best choice is to admit when you're wrong and have Kris Statlander win, and then have Mercedes go into the main title picture and make the main title picture important again. That might help as well, but I don't have that much hope in this company, so I'm gonna say Mercedes Moné gets the win. We do have a super chat donation here from Will Chisholm. Thank you so much, Will. Always appreciate you in the chat. He says, not trying to be funny, but it seems like Mercedes work harder when she faces Stardom women. I think Mercedes and Tony Khan has to eat this blame pie. I think you can say that, because I haven't had the same feelings whenever she's on New Japan, the New Japan Strong shows. She always delivers a strong effort. She always feels like a star, but she just doesn't always deliver and doesn't feel like a star anymore on AEW television. It's very weird.
Yeah. I think it's the star part is the real issue. I think her TV segments actively have made her less of a star to the AEW audience, sadly, which is kind of brutal, to be honest. I mean, it's really not how they're supposed to, really how it's supposed to work, but it's the way it's come off. Her presence coming through the door has actively decreased with the more that they've done with her on TV, which is very, very bad. But
very,
sad.
very bad, very, very alarming. We got another super chat donation here from Will Chisholm. Thank you so much, Will. He says, sorry, I feel like Bobby Lashley group is more believable to take over AEW than Mox group. Kissler, me, though. Just me, I guess. Just me, though.
Yeah.
I can understand that, because I do think that they look more intimidating, the Hurt Syndicate. But I think that you can't do the kind of promos that Moxley are doing with the Hurt Syndicate. So,
well, yeah,
and that was the part that was working for me, and in the build to Wrestle Dream was all the great promos to kick off the show and end the show from Moxley. So I think that that's a part of the takeover that was working. Just because it's not working right now doesn't mean that didn't work.
It's definitely I think it's part of the issue of everything being so disjointed, because I watched Dynamite with my dad, who's in his 60s, and the first thing he said when Bobby Lashley debuted and they cleared the ring was they could definitely beat up the Blackpool Combat Club. And I was howling. That was immediately what his brain put together. Well, obviously Bobby Lashley could beat up Jon Moxley. So to Will's point, I think it's like an elephant in the room almost, right? Well, what do they think of Moxley's group? We don't know.
You know what they should do after Full Gear? The Wednesday in Chicago, they need to have Death Riders beating up people. They end one of the Continental Class. They ruin one of the Continental Class matches. And then you have Hurt Syndicate come out the episode of Monday Night Raw with Retribution when they came. That was the thing that really skyrocketed their popularity for WWE fans. Is them standing up to another heel faction.
Even in these buildings, I think people would go crazy if they stood up the Death Riders, because the Hurt Business, the Hurt Syndicate just looks so cool as a unit. I'm actually thankful Sam will be very positive about them. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, it's an interesting, definitely it makes it more challenging when they look that cool and badass, it must be said.
Absolutely. You just have Marina Shafir jump on Shelton Benjamin's back as he's fighting with Willie Yuta. So it's even.
Yeah, I guess, man.
And this is also true from Big Man Dogs talking about Mercedes, saying it's because the Stardom women are better. Could be that.
Often the case, yeah. I mean,
especially
when comparing it's a Brit match, it's it is what it is.
Yeah, I could see that too. Yeah, you're forced to face Britt Baker,
Yeah.
Just it. But next up, so no, I think I didn't give my. Did I give my prediction? I think it is Mercedes. Mercedes gonna retain here. Yeah. But then you got over for the TNT Championship, Joe. It's gonna be Jack Perry defending the TNT Championship against Daniel Garcia. Garcia made his return on Title Tuesday, AEW Dynamite, and set his sights on championship gold, saying that he was coming for the gold in AEW and putting every champion on alert. This led to Wrestle Dream, where Jack Perry defeated Katsuyori Shibata to retain his title, and then post-match tried to attack Shibata with the title until Garcia made the save. Garcia made it known that he was coming after Jack Perry and did not like the fact that Jack Perry, the Young Bucks, the entire elite were staying out of all this business with the Death Riders, saying that they needed to step up for All Elite Wrestling. Garcia and Private Party defeated the Bucks and Perry in 6-man tag team action. And Garcia has been on a roll in singles action, which led to him issuing the challenge to Jack Perry for the TNT Championship. And then they completely lost the plot. This is one where I can't even like break it down into leaving all the bad stuff out because the last week has been ridiculous. So on Collision on last Saturday, you had Garcia defeating Johnny TV. During the matchup, Perry attacked Garcia's mentor, Daddy Magic, at ringside. He was about to chain him up and drag him with his scapegoat bus until Garcia made the save. Garcia and Daddy Magic then tied and chained Perry to the scapegoat bus and started driving recklessly, trying to hurt him. And then we saw a clip on Dynamite where they kidnapped Jack Perry. It led to Jack Perry talking trash to Garcia, saying he's not willing to sacrifice what he needs to become a champion. And Garcia got so upset that he grabbed a crowbar and started to lightly hit the scapegoat bus before leaving Jack Perry in a warehouse by himself with a horseshoe up his ass, according to Daddy Magic.
Rough.
I mean, the one good thing I can say about this whole build is that they have gone away from trying to portray Jack Perry as a badass because he's not that.
They've definitely done that.
They definitely done that, but man, they completely lost the plot with this. Like, I'm sorry. That segment on Dynamite was all-time, like, worst segments of the year for sure.
It's just the thing about that segment is like I think Garcia, like I think he's delivering the content well, you know? It's just like, why is this? Yeah, I'm not sure about this. Garcia should win here because I think it's probably best to move on. I'm sorry to report, folks, I do not think Garcia is winning here. I think Garcia dominating the build makes me deeply concerned that they're going to keep going.
No.
I know, but he's like won every segment in the build, right? Like every single segment. Which I think Jack's going to escape with the belt and they're going to drag this out to World's End. It's a shame because I think they have good intentions and they've tried to give this a clear personality, but it's just so like over the top and theatrical, and everyone's trying to do the cinema these days. You know, it's a real issue. It's like an epidemic in the industry.
For everybody, it does not work for Jack Perry.
They can just do a wrestling feud. I think we'll all be okay with that. But yeah, here we are. Match should be good. There it is again. The obligatory match should be good. I'm going to take Jack Perry to win reluctantly. I don't know, dude.
I was hoping that they could just end this now and just have Garcia win. I mean, it doesn't do much for Jack Perry. Jack Perry would look awful after like you said, the build where he's mostly been dominated and little broed by Garcia. But I feel like Garcia needs to win this one. He needs to get the win now. You can have the big celebration with him and Private Party, like I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to do both title changes on this show, but at least have their Garcia title change on this show. It's close enough to New York. It's his home field advantage, the East Coast home field advantage for him against Jack Perry. Hoping for Garcia to get the win, but my Lord, that whole angle. Why did they do that? Why?
That was your, like, I broke about an hour and 10 minutes ago when we talked about Roddy. That was your, like, throwing the towel.
I threw in the towel. I might have thrown in the towel on this whole promotion if it wasn't for this channel. Oh my god!
Earlier on, when you was like, Jericho's not on the show, I'm bumping it up. I feel like you've just, whatever you gained from that has now come back down again. Sadly.
Yep, it's come back down. Stupid angles that remind me of like when Edge kidnapped Paul Bearer in 2010. That's never what you should be doing.
Never a good thing.
Never a good thing.
We have to say too, folks, so this is your first one of these. This is not usually what these shows are like. This is not, you know.
We're usually really like, oh, this match is going to be awesome. No, this is at an interesting story. Oh, this hasn't been that good, but this over here has been good. It hasn't been that on this one.
It hasn't been, you know, I mean, you got to call it how you see it, I guess, right? I mean, we're doing our best, folks. Yep.
We can only be honest. All right. If you wanted us to talk about how matches that we're excited about, here you go. You got one that I'm very excited for, Joe. For the AEW International Championship, Konosuke Takeshita defends against Ricochet. It was Ricochet who got his first shot at the International Championship on the 5-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite against Will Ospreay. That match was broken up by Konosuke Takeshita. This led to a 3-way matchup between Takeshita, Ospreay, and Ricochet, a stellar three-way matchup at Wrestle Dream, which Takeshita won thanks in large part to help from the Don Callis family after Takeshita laid out Ricochet, putting him through the table with a bastard driver off the apron. And now Ricochet has had his eyes set on Takeshita, wanting to be the man that dethrones him for the International Championship. He's been on a winning streak ever since Wrestle Dream. At the same time, he's been keeping his eyes on Takeshita. Takeshita made his first defense against Josh Alexander for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Callis and Takeshita jumped Alexander after the matchup. It was Ricochet who made a surprise appearance to make the save there. They faced in tag team action where Ricochet and Powerhouse Hobbs picked up a win over Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, with Ricochet pinning the AEW International Champion. And they also went at it in a 4-on-4 matchup this past week on AEW Dynamite as well. Ricochet has picked up victory against the likes of AR Fox, Leo Rush, Dante Martin, on his way to his next shot at championship gold. Can Ricochet win his first title in AEW, or will Takeshita's reign continue? These two guys may be two of the best in AEW. I think that Takeshita is for sure one of top 5, top 6 guys in this company as far as in-ring. And I think that Ricochet needs this matchup to kind of get his position where he is in this company. If he can deliver another stellar matchup like they did at Wrestle Dream with Will Ospreay, Mr. Automatic 5 stars, then it will be like, okay, Ricochet, welcome into the club. We don't know where we're going to sit you yet, but you could come into the club and you can stand on the line of the upper echelon of AEW. What have you thought about the build to this matchup? Who do you think wins?
Yeah, the build's been very steady, right? I think this is one to be mostly positive on. I think Ricochet has got into a nice rhythm and has been a nice positive on the TV show and has given them some good action, as you'd expect. Takeshita, always want more for Takeshita, but at least he's featured right on TV. And I think this addition to the card is, like a positive. I think if anything, I'd have announced it earlier because I think it's like a genuine... It's a big deal, right? It's a big match.
My only issue when this was announced last night, it's like, why you couldn't announce this on the show?
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm sorry. Did we really need the 30 more seconds of Tomohiro Ishii walking behind Chris Jericho? Couldn't say, hey, based on his victory 2 weeks ago in a tag team matchup, Ricochet will challenge Konosuke Takeshita for the AEW International Championship at Full Gear. That took 30 seconds. That took the same amount of time.
Yeah, it was strange. Most of us assumed it would be on, which made it even weirder, to be honest. But what they've actually done has been fine, and the match should be killer. Takeshita has to win, right? Ricochet, I know there'll be like controversy that he's losing, but Ricochet's honestly been good. I think he's at first I thought it took him a minute to adjust, but I think he's been very strong as of late. So I'm bullish on this. I think it's one of the best matches on the show. Takeshita, I'm almost certain will win. I think he has to, right? But should be very, very good.
I think like I'm refraining from any criticism towards Ricochet because this man's about to main event a Tokyo Dome show. So like
Yeah.
there's nothing really you can tell me of, oh, he should have stayed in WWE right now for at least until after January 5th. You can't tell me anything because I will just say he wasn't main eventing no Tokyo Domes in WWE, so yeah. But I think he has had a solid run so far in AEW. You know, the three-way matchup at Wrestle Dream being the best of the bunch for sure. But him and Ospreay tore it up. Him and Beast Mortals had a great matchup. Him and Sammy had a strong matchup. Him and Leo Rush had a great matchup. Him and AR Fox. That was much better than I thought it even was going to be because those two guys have chemistry from before Ricochet's before his WWE run. So I think this one should be a match of the night. It's between this and the Ospreay and Fletcher matchup. But yeah, I'm going to go with Takeshita to win. I'm hoping that both of these guys are in the Continental Classic. You can't just tease me with Takeshita going after the Continental crown and just say, oh, he's a champion now. He can't be in it. No. You put Takeshita in the Continental Classic.
Yeah, that's a huge like ceiling raiser on the tournament, right? If he's in there, every match is box office with that dude. So definitely.
Absolutely, especially after his G1 performance. But we shall see who gets the win between Takeshita and Ricochet. We're both going with Takeshita there. And here we got the biggest grudge match on the card, as it will be Swerve Strickland going one-on-one with the almighty Bobby Lashley. It was Swerve Strickland who made his return to AEW at Wrestle Dream, and he was confronted by MVP and Shelton Benjamin. MVP came into AEW handing his business card to Prince Nana to give to Swerve because he wanted him to be a part of a new group that he was building in All Elite Wrestling. That included Shelton Benjamin, who made his debut the week after, and they approached Swerve for his answer, and Swerve chose to stay with Prince Nana, to stay with family, instead of going with the Hurt Syndicate, which draw the ire of both the MVP and Shelton Benjamin, leading to a one-on-one matchup between Swerve and Shelton on AEW Fright Night Dynamite. But after Swerve was able to pick up the victory over Shelton, MVP made the call to the almighty Bobby Lashley, who made his debut to close the show, laying out Swerve with a big clothesline as well as the Hurt Lock, laying out Prince Nana as well. Since then, the Hurt Syndicate has been causing trouble for Swerve, who made the challenge to Bobby Lashley for Full Gear. They jumped Swerve the following week after a victory over Leo Rush, but Swerve finally got a measure of revenge against the Hurt Syndicate, first by blindsiding Bobby Lashley with a shot with a steel chain, and then attacking Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin post-match after Bobby Lashley's in-ring debut on AEW television on Dynamite this week. This has been, I think, a well-done build to the feud. Arguably the best of the show, I would argue, because of the Hurt Syndicate and the setup for that. I think has been very, very well done. I just think that I think that this should be Bobby Lashley's in-ring debut. I think that's the only misstep that I think they've taken, is giving away the in-ring debut on Dynamite this week. I think they could have still done the angle that they did, which was the main part of everything, was the angle post-match. They could have done that without the match.
Yes, I thought this week was probably, ironically, the weakest stuff they've done. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't. I didn't think it felt as big time as the rest of it has, because, to be honest, I think the Hurt Syndicate have come across like a really big deal. MVP has been terrific on TV. Shelton has over-delivered in ring, right, for a guy 49 years old. I mean, he's looked great. Bobby is Bobby. I mean, he just on look alone, it's like, wow. So they've been killer, and Swerve, that's a big program. It's refreshing to see guys come into a main event angle like this. I'm pretty much positive on all this again. I think the go-home stuff was a little weak, but yeah, I like this a lot. The finish is interesting on this, right? Because Swerve is rightly protected, is a top star. But I feel like after the angle on Wednesday, I think Bobby Lashley's going to have to do some damage here, I feel like. His first pay-per-view match, you know, Swerve got the one-up on them on Wednesday. Maybe you protect Swerve with, as mentioned here, maybe an interference or something of that, maybe an angle, maybe a new member. But Lashley's got to win, I think. I've been unsure beforehand because I think there's some interesting political elements at play, but I'm going to go Lashley in a match that for me personally is one of the main attractions on the show. I'm not saying it's going to be one of the best matches on the show, but I think it's one of the most intriguing because it's just a wacky matchup, right? And Bobby in AEW still feels kind of weird too. So I'm all in on this. I think this stuff's been very good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think the crowd will be invested in this one as well. And Swerve is still one of the more over guys in the company. And Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate kind of get like that superstar kind of reaction where it's a mixture of yays and boos for them, but it's always a reaction in some way. So I'm looking forward to this one a lot. But I agree. I think Bobby Lashley gets the win, and I think he should dominate. I think he should take like 90% of this match.
I agree.
It could be your regular kind of like major singles match, over 15-minute type matchup, but he needs to take 90% of it and get the win.
It's important with someone like Bobby, you work backwards where it's like start him off dominant so that when eventually a guy beats him, it matters. If someone immediately can compete with him and beat him, it's like you're making it much harder for yourself, right? He should be very dominant for a while here, dude. Like he's a monster. Hopefully, Bobby, the one thing I would say about this match, and I'm a big fan. I remember when we first started doing shows together, that was in the Big Van Bob era. Do you remember that when he was like the US champion and stuff? I do think he's like quietly slowed down a little bit, which is understandable because I think he's technically 50, hilariously.
Yes.
Hopefully being in a new spot and being motivated, he'll like be fresh and explosive. Because that's the one thing I would say is like a couple of the last times I saw him work in WWE, I did think he looked a little slowed. Hopefully that isn't a factor here. Because I mean, when he's on his game, Bobby is dynamite. Absolutely.
Totally agree with you there. We got another super chat donation from Dion Jenkins. Thank you so much, Dion. He says, have Takeshita win the C2 and face Okada at Wrestle Dynasty title unification. Well, that can't happen, Dion. It would have to be, if he's winning the C2, he would have to face Okada for the Continental Crown in the finals at World's End. Plus, Takeshita's already booked for Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom because he's trying to get another title, the Never Openweight Championship against Shingo Takagi on January 4th. And if he wins that, he faces Tomohiro Ishii on January 5th. So he'll have match of the year candidates by the 5th.
Well, I'm glad you're here because I would have just said, good idea. I would have I'd forgotten all of that. Out of the loop. But okay, that makes sense.
He's like, sign me up.
Yeah, it sounded good to me.
He's like ripping up the plans. He was like, I don't even know what's on this paper.
Yeah.
But no, that's what I want. That's what I want personally, Alex.
Sure.
3-belt tech in the new agenda. Yes. I want Takeshita to win the C2 as international champion, then go into Wrestle Kingdom, win the Never Openweight Championship, become the Triple Crown, beat Ishii, and then walk back into AEW with all the gold.
Works for me, brother. I'm all for any Takeshita title wins. Let's do it.
3-belt Takeshita. Let's do it. All right. Finally, Joe, we got the main event of the show, AEW World Championship up for grabs. Jon Moxley defending against Orange Cassidy. These two men have had a long-standing rivalry that dates back to last summer. It culminated with a big showdown for the AEW International Championship at All Out, which Jon Moxley picked up the win to become the international champion. After Moxley dropped the title due to a concussion, then Orange Cassidy won back the title from Rey Fenix. It was Orange who finally beat Moxley at AEW Full Gear 2023. Since then, a lot has changed. Orange has lost the international championship. He's lost his best friends. Meanwhile, Jon Moxley went on to become an IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. But after dropping that title at Forbidden Door and taking a month off, he came with a change back to AEW and led to him getting teamed up with his Blackpool Combat Club brethren, Claudio Castagnoli, as well as Marina Shafir, and showing this new personality and threatening to take over AEW. That all came to fruition at All Out when Moxley, Claudio, Pac, and Marina Shafir attacked Bryan Danielson, leading to Moxley defeating Danielson to end his full-time career and become the AEW World Champion at Wrestle Dream. And then they put on one of the saddest, most depressing and dramatic endings to an AEW pay-per-view of all time when they had Wheeler Yuta turn heel, betraying his mentor, Bryan Danielson, suffocating him with a plastic bag before Claudio stomped a chair on the neck of Bryan. There was various baby faces who came out to see the whole ending scene, and one of them was Orange Cassidy, with Darby Allin attacked during that whole beatdown and taking some weeks off. It was Orange who was being pushed to the forefront and being called upon to be the man to lead the charge. He even had his best friend Chuck Taylor try to motivate him and give him a motivational speech to step up for the company. But it took Chuck Taylor getting his neck stomped on with the steel chair by the now coined Death Riders, led by Moxley. That led to Orange finally stepping up, making the challenge for the AEW World Championship, cutting the head of the snake, which is Jon Moxley, because Orange Cassidy is the only man that has scored a singles victory over every single member of the Death Riders, but he hasn't gotten the better of them ever since they've gotten together. They've even beat him down on this past week's Dynamite after Orange Cassidy picked up a win over Wheeler Yuta, taping his hands in his pocket, beating him down, but Orange defiantly got to his feet, proving that won't be enough come this Saturday. This is another instance of me leaving all the bad stuff out, which is more of the recent stuff and what happened on Wednesday, because I did not say Orange Cassidy took only 20% of that matchup against Wheeler Yuta, then won with the flash pin, only to get his ass whooped by the Death Riders for 5 minutes. And then they decided to have him stand on his feet as his big triumphant moment. He couldn't beat the pawn in this whole damn story. And then he stood up, and that was supposed to be like, oh yeah, that's the guy we're going to root for. That's the top babyface. That's the guy we think is going to save AEW. What? What are we doing? What are we thinking? I was like the week prior when Orange came out, cut the big monologue and promo, and the fans barely reacted. And then Darby jumped from the stands and they started marking out. I was like, oh, it's over. It might be over. It might be over.
Yeah.
It might be over. It's like if the fans know who the real guy is in this story, then that's gonna hurt every other guy you pretend it's the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is a story here that the people involved are very proud of and feel very strongly about, and I do not think is connected, unfortunately. With that in mind, that Wheeler Yuta match you mentioned was like not a lot got a good reaction on Wednesday. That match was wrestled to like silence on Wednesday, dude.
Yes.
Like, I just don't think it's translating the way they want it to. Orange is, his track record in terms of big matches, I think, has been admirable. And look, we were both there in Chicago for their match last year, which was great. The rematch less so, but the first match was great. And I think this will probably be, I've settled on, I think this will be somewhere in between those two matches, Like, I think Orange just feels nowhere near as hot as he did, like, going into that match. So I think this will be a lot, they'll have to work harder to get the people to believe he's going to win, a lot harder. But they have got a main event spot. They're going to have time. They're going to have room to take some big swings. So I think this will probably get over the line and be a very good main event. I just wish it had more juice going in, It just feels like a stopgap in a lot of ways. I don't think a lot of the audience buys Orange as like the savior. And it doesn't help that, again, what is he saving them from, right? Moxley's just in his own like island on the show. That's also an issue, among many issues. These two are very good matches. We've seen it before. I assume this will be exactly that. The big thing I'm looking for is how the crowd is for this match, Is this going to have a big fight feel? Is this going to have a main event feel? Their angles have not had a main event feel at all. No. Let's see what it's like in Newark.
The only time the main event angles have got a big reaction is when Darby's involved.
Yeah. So I'm not sure this was the right play. It was very clear coming out of WrestleStream that they were going to go Orange first as like a setup for Darby. I think it's been it's felt a lot less important than they were hoping for, considering that angle. That's just me. But Moxley's going to win, and I think he's going to win pretty dominantly too. Which I'm not sure how I feel about that either, to be honest, at this point. But we'll see.
Because they tend to not do the most simplest things for this. Because this would be a simple job to build Orange Cassidy as the first contender, if they had any idea Orange Cassidy was going to be the first contender before Wrestle Dream. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like they didn't do anything to build him up and get him ready for this before Wrestle Dream. He wasn't even on the Wrestle Dream card. His last major singles match before that was against Chris Jericho. 20 minutes that I'll never get back again. And before that, dealing with Chris Jericho, that means you're knee deep in the mid card. So there was no upward trajectory. Him winning against Jericho did not mean that fans are supposed to be like, oh, now he's going to move up now, because you already failed to do that when he lost the international championship last year. Then you didn't. Then you failed to do it after he lost the international championship this year, because you put him in a feud with Trent Beretta that went on way too long. Like there was no indication that Orange Cassidy would be in the main event scene when he's facing Trent Beretta at Double or Nothing.
They did that segment with Jerry Lynn that was so like, we need to make up a lot of lost ground. It's just,
and then that was a good setup point at Wrestle Dream. Nothing to build upon that, really, other than the Chuck Taylor promo. But as you're doing that, and especially because Orange Cassidy is one of the few guys that they put on both shows, why isn't he beating legit people on Collision at least? Like, have him get a win over someone that actually matters, but someone that you're not trying to protect. And have him get wins over the Lance Archers of the world, or the Brian Cages, or the Beast Mortos. So at least you could say, hey, this guy's won 5 straight matches since he got that speech, and now he's going into the matchup at Full Gear. See, I'm forgetting what the name of the pay-per-view is. That's how frustrated I am with what they've done with this. Like, they have not done even the smallest things to build Orange up as a legit contender. And if you have him in a match against the sidekick to the main villain, he should whoop that sidekick's ass. He should not be taking less than 30% of the matchup against Wheeler Yuta. I am sorry. This is not Claudio Castagnoli. This is Wheeler Yuta. I thought the whole point was for him to whoop his ass. Wheeler Yuta took 75% of the matchup and lost on a flash pin. Outrageous. I was dumbfounded on Wednesday.
They've dedicated a lot of time to Yuta, and I just can't help but wonder if the juice is worth the squeeze. Yuta's a really good wrestler, but like, what's the end game with that stuff? Like, I just don't know. I don't know. That was the Wednesday stuff was like alarmingly weak for this, considering it was the go home, especially. Not the best sign. Yeah, I'm not budging from my 5 out of 10, dude. I'm locked in.
Yeah, I think I went down to 5.5 after talking about the build to this main event. I think messy, Moxley wins, and I think a lot of the stuff that like I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. That actually works. Like him being the only person that has gotten wins over every member of the Death Rod. They haven't even knocked that into your head or anything. They said it like twice and then just dropped it. That should be like the main thing of why everybody wanted him to be the leader. But they haven't even done that right. And then him telling his friends, don't help me, and then getting his ass kicked by the heel group. I have no sympathy for you. Yeah,
that just made him look dumb.
Why should I be sympathetic of the top babyface in the promotion getting his ass kicked by 5 people if he won't take help?
They've also like actively trained us to believe they're going to beat him up. Like, it's very silly. It doesn't really make any sense. I don't know, brother. This is very different to our usual preview shows. This has not been the most optimistic program we've ever done together. I'm sorry to say.
I'm sorry to say this, but yeah, this is the most pessimistic preview that we've done for an AEW show. And then you'll see me on Sunday. They'll see me on Sunday, and I'll be raving about this show because in the ring is never the problem with this company. Pay-per-views is the one thing that's up across the board for this company. Attendance, the pay-per-view buy rates, and then the quality, it's up in 2024. The only part of their business that is up in 2024. So I know I'm going to enjoy this show, but I just want them to get the stuff before this show better, please. Please.
Because otherwise it just becomes like a cycle. It's like we'll like the pay-per-view and then we'll do this all over again for the next block of TV, and then and it just gets tiring after a while, dude. It doesn't have to be this way where the matches like bow out the creative. It's not how it should be. But it's becoming that way more and more, unfortunately.
It is, and it's making me believe that Tony Khan needs to take a break. He's the person that needs to take a break. Even more than Chris Jericho, Tony Khan is the one who needs to take the break.
Yeah. Probably both, really, but yeah.
But we made it to the end of our pay-per-view preview for AEW Full Gear 2024. Joe, want to thank you for joining me today for previewing, breaking down the card for this Saturday. Please let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, when they will see you on their YouTube screens. Once again, the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate it. I've now realized that when you do this, I actually should promote stuff. I usually would just go, well, I don't know, but I'm actually going to promote stuff now. I don't know about socials because I'm doing the Blue Sky thing, and like, I don't really know what to do right now. I'm posting on both of them. It's kind of just made my social media usage worse. But what I'll say is forget socials. Late Night Grin on YouTube. Check it out, folks. Tonight there'll be a Full Gear preview not involving me, so you can see what a bunch of other people think of this show that I just did, a very excited preview of. I'll be live for members, LNG Gold members, in 2 hours to review some wrestling matches. One of the matches I'm reviewing is the Brothers of Destruction DX Classic from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia a couple years ago.
Oh, boy.
I've got to dive into that. I watched it twice to take notes, as I do for all of these matches. So check out Late Night Grin. If you like it, have a look at the options to become a member. We have 4 tiers and all sorts of different content, almost every shows every day. I think I'm the only person who's in SP3's tier of like show output. I'm not on your level, but I'm on the tier. I'm in the same category. So yeah, check out Late Night Grin, folks. That's the main thing.
He's on a whole nother level, folks. Go over to Late Night Grin, become a member of the channel. They got some great content over there, and I appreciate Joe whenever he's able to join me. Hopefully AEW will announce their Continental Classic. Why didn't they? That's another thing. I said this on Ramble yesterday too. Why didn't they promote this Saturday we'll announce the people in the Continental Classic? Give them another reason to get the pay-per-view.
I legitimately don't think they know who's in the Continental Classic. Like I'm not. I swear I'm not doing a bit. I know it sounds funny, but I think they know like half of the people, and they're going to try and come up with that over the weekend. They are
because I want to do some content on the Continental Classic. I want to call up Joe so we can break it down. Like Mel Kiper and them talking about the March Madness. We could be talking about Continental Classic like that.
Wrestling fans love that stuff. Have you seen what wrestling fans do for the G1? They do like month-long previews. Like, the only reason it's not announced, I presume, is because they don't know. I mean, honestly, is weird. And I'm sure there's a lot of politics and, brother business going on. But yeah, I'm sure, right? It must be. There's elements to the Continental Classic that I'm sure are a headache. I have no doubt. But either way, hopefully that tournament's good. And hopefully the next time we do this, we're a lot more positive. Hopefully, right?
Yes. I'm hoping so. I might have to call Joe earlier than our preview for World's End. Want to give him a heads up. Might have to call you for ROH Final Battle because it's coming home to the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I might be there live.
I should be able to. Yes, I mean I'm very concerned about my December because I fear that this Christmas is going to be a real task for me to do wrestling podcasts. But hopefully I'll be there. It's Hammerstein, as you say. I mean we've got to make a special occasion of it. So I'll try my best to make that happen, brother. Sounds good.
Christmas is usually the only day of the year that I take somewhat of a break. I don't work on Christmas Day. I try not to work on Christmas Eve. I usually do work on Christmas Eve, but don't work on Christmas Day. And I try to get all my content done for that week. so we could just put it on.
You're such a beast, dude. I'm literally planning the schedule so that I don't have to work like the entire Christmas week because I just have no interest in like coming on and talking about doing School of Wrestling with Oracle on December 23rd. Like I can't do it, man. There's too much going on in my life. But just what I said, you're a different level. I mean, I respect it.
Thank you, my good brother. Thank you. Respect your level as well. Go over there. Support Joe. Kris has saying he just subscribed to Joe's channel on my phone. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Appreciate y'all for joining us live today. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHeelSP3. You can follow the gang Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at TrueHeelHeat. Patreon.com/True Hill Heat, $3 a month. Get you exclusive content like our NJPW World Tag League preview that's up over there right now. So go over and check that out. And that's the best way to support us when we are not live here. But we will be live tomorrow, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, the True Hill Heat flagship podcast, talking this week in pro wrestling. And we will get more in depth on what does AEW need to do coming out of AEW Full Gear, and can Continental Classic save AEW? We'll talk all about it on the flagship. So join me, Miss Chrissy Love, and True Jaw Josh. Check out last week's edition of the flagship podcast 303, as well as AE Ramble 173 Defiant, reviewing this week's AEW Dynamite. For Joe Hulbert, it is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. This has been our AEW Full Gear 2024 preview. We are signing off until next time.